Hello again and welcome back to ZenSummer. Today is Topic Tuesday and we're going to talk about letting go of control. Hi, my name is Tracy and I'm a control freak. Does that sound like you? Kind of feel like you need to have control of every aspect of your life, not only your life, but everything else around you. Feel like if things are out of control, you can't have peace. Maybe you're a control freak. I know I am. And I have had to learn over the years to let go of a lot of that. So here's the thing. You don't have control over anything or anyone but that person right there. Point towards yourself, and that's the thing you have control over. Life is chaotic. People are chaotic, and people are their own entities. They're going to do their own thing, make their own choices. That includes your kids, by the way. I'm not saying your little kids. Obviously, you have to have a modicum of control over little kids. However, you can teach your children to slowly become able to make their own choices, become independent, because you're not raising little kids, at least we hope not, you're raising little adults. Eventually, they're going to become adults, and you want for them to be healthy. You want them to be able to make proper choices, and you want them to be independent. Trust me. I have two really amazing boys and a really amazing young lady who are all very adult, independent young people. And yes, they call on mom for help once in a while, but they're pretty good at making their own choices and their own decisions. And I have been very aware of the fact that I don't have any control over that. I can have an opinion, although sometimes I probably shouldn't voice it, and I've had to bite my tongue more than once, but it is always their choice. And it's not just about your kids, it's about everything in your life. Do you try to control what your spouse does, control decisions they make? Do you try to control your parents? Maybe your parents are older and you're trying to control the decisions they make because you're worried, and I get it. It causes you anxiety, you're concerned, you're worried. But as long as somebody is mentally capable and old enough to make their own choices, you have to mostly let them. Letting go of control of the chaos. See, here's the problem. We try to control every aspect of our lives, but life is in and of itself a chaotic entity that we have no control over. We can control some aspects of it, little pieces. We control what we do, how we react, our actions and place in the world, but we cannot control how the world reacts to us, what the world thinks of us. Those things, thoughts, actions, reactions, the only thing we can control is our own. We can even control the reaction we have to an emotion, but we cannot control other people's emotions. We cannot control how they feel about us. We cannot control the way the world acts and reacts to us. And that's really hard for a control freak like me to let go of. I thought for a while I had done well at it, and then realized I was still controlling things or trying to control things that I had no right to try and control. And in doing so, I created adults who relied on me for more than they should. And that, instead of giving me peace, which is what a control freak is trying to find, is peace, instead of giving me peace of mind and inner peace, by knowing I had control over these things, all it has done is cause me more anxiety. Because there are days where I can barely take care of myself and make my own choices and make my own decisions, and now I'm being counted on to do this for other people. I'm not saying don't share your opinion, share your thoughts, but let go of that expectation that they're going to make the choice that you want them to make based on that opinion. That's trying to control, and you don't have a right to do that. You wouldn't want someone doing it to you. You shouldn't do it to them. You don't want the expectation that you're going to make choices and decisions based on a parent, spouse, child's opinion, or friend's opinion. You shouldn't expect it of them. This is a larger concept because it's about unconditional love. If I love you unconditionally, that means that I love you without expecting that you do what I need you to do or what I want you to do. If I love you unconditionally, that means that no matter the choices you have made, I still feel love for you. Now, unconditional love does not necessarily mean that you accept that behavior or want them to be around you or in your circle at any given time. There are times when I have not been able to let my children live with me as adults because of the choices they were making, and it was things that I couldn't have around me. That didn't mean I wasn't there for them or didn't love them. It just meant that I couldn't have them right there with me in my circle every day. I have made rules. My friends and family are not going to call me when they're drunk. I don't find it appealing in any way. And so I ask them not to do it. And most of them respect that. It's just a part of my boundaries that I've set, and we'll talk more about boundary setting, but that is one of the boundaries that I set. It may not be one that you need to set, but it may be. I can love them without loving every part of them. I can love them without loving every choice they make. I can be there for them without needing to be that person that they call when they're drinking. You want to drunk dial someone, call your buddy, not me. And there's been times when they've been drinking, they've had to call me, and we've made exceptions. They aren't hard and fast boundaries. These are flexible boundaries. If there's an emergency and you need to call, of course, call. But we've learned to work with that, and we've learned to make exceptions when needed. But they also respect the fact that I set that boundary. It's about not just unconditional love and boundaries, it's about knowing yourself and knowing your limits. If you know your own limits, you can set boundaries so that you don't cross other people's boundaries. Because having an expectation of people or trying to control other people or situations may be crossing someone else's boundaries. And if you want your boundaries respected, you kind of have to respect theirs. So again, we'll talk more about boundary setting and we'll talk more about expectations in another video. But I wanted to touch on letting go of that control and how hard it is, because it is super, super hard. And while I thought I was there, I wasn't there entirely. And I probably never will be because, well, as my husband will happily tell you, and my children would probably happily tell you, I can be a bit of a control freak. I have learned to let go of a lot of that and say, well, here's what I think, but it's always your decision. Oh, you want my help with this? Okay, fine. I can help you with this much of it, but some of it you're going to have to do yourself. And for me to be able to let go of that control, I've had to set boundaries with how much I can do. Because if I put in too much of myself, if I put in too much effort, and you still make choices that lead to a bad outcome, and I can see it coming, it's more stressful for me. So I put limits on what I can do to help, as far as I'll do some of it, but you have to, you have to take the rest of the steps. I can't do all of it for you. Because as a control freak, I want to do all of it for them. I just get out of my way, let me do it, let me type it, let me do this, let me do that, let me get the pills, let me do this, let me drive to the store. I want to control every aspect of it. Maybe not drive to the store, I really hate driving, but I want to control every aspect of it. It's the reason, and my husband so doesn't understand this, it's the reason I get anxiety when riding in a car. As much as I don't want to drive, I'm not in control. So I get anxiety. Even though I trust him, even though I know that he is a good driver and has never been in an accident, knock on wood, I get anxiety because I'm not in control. And because I've let go of so many other things that I have controlled in my life, now that is giving me more anxiety than it used to. I am working on that. It is a work in progress. We are always a work in progress. Don't give yourself a hard time. Don't beat yourself up. You know what? You are who you are. Yes, maybe you're a control freak, or maybe you're living with someone who is. Just accept and love us for who we are, please, because we're trying and we're learning every day. You know, my mother was a massive control freak and a perfectionist, and oh, good heavens, way worse than I ever could be, and a worry wart. And now she's almost 70, she might be 78, but she's in her late 70s anyway. She's getting close to those early 80s. And she's finally realized, I mean, it was probably her mid 70s or early to mid 70s when she finally realized how much she couldn't control and that she didn't really want to. And how much she needed to set her boundaries. Maybe she didn't call it that, but to set her boundaries, to know her limitations, and to let go of everything else. And since she has accepted that and learned that, and I have accepted some of this and learned some of this, we have had a much, much better relationship. So maybe you're dealing with a control freak mom. Hi, I'm a control freak mom, although I try very hard not to be. My brain does it, even if my mouth doesn't sometimes. I learned to bite my tongue a lot. My mother hadn't. So maybe you're dealing with a control freak mother who doesn't know how to let go of that control yet, who doesn't understand that they're simply causing themselves more anxiety by trying to have all that control. So what do? Well, you love them for who they are, and you accept them for who they are, and you set your own set of boundaries. How much can you take? How much are you willing to deal with? And if the boundary line is crossed, what do you need to do? Do you need to back off? I did for a few years. I backed way off from my mom for a few years. We spent 3 years barely talking, and another 5 talking little bits at a time to learn how to communicate with each other better. And now we have a good relationship. When we have our moments, there are still times when she'll say something a little judgmental. I have learned to bite my tongue when she does it. And I'm sure there are times when I say something a little bit harsh and don't mean to, and she's learned to bite her tongue when I do it. Or to just say, hey, I gotta go now. Which I'm sure more times than not, when she's gotta go off the phone, is because I've said something that has bothered her, because I'm still learning how to communicate better with her. Learning to let go of control, there's a lot of skills in there. And we'll talk more about communication because that's a big one. We'll talk more about letting go of expectations. We'll talk more about setting boundaries. But if you're a control freak, or you're living with someone or love someone who is, accept yourself, accept them, and just keep taking this journey one step at a time, one day at a time. We are all a work in progress. And you know what? If there's something about someone else that you're struggling with, I'm sure there's something about you they're struggling with. If there's something about yourself that you're struggling with, trust me, the people around you are struggling with something about themselves too. We just have to learn how to love without setting so many conditions, and set boundaries so that we don't break conditions for ourselves that are necessary for our own peace. It's a fine line we're walking, folks, but we'll get there. All right, well, tomorrow we're going to talk about my favorite book. So make sure to join me. And we'll probably be doing the video right after this one. So if I'm wearing the same outfit, that is why, because I'm really excited to talk about it, but it will not be posted until What to Read Wednesday. So I look forward to seeing you. See you soon.